Today we're joined by Jordan from SolidWorks, and we'll be taking a look, a little bit deeper dive into the 3D Sculptor roll-on 3D experience. If any of you have seen that, it's pretty incredible sub-divisional modeling technology, and you're able to create really organic geometry. Now, the question that usually comes up first is how can we get precise with this geometry? They're worried that just pushing and pulling in space is going to create some really cool shapes, but ultimately not serve their purpose. So, Jordan, would you mind telling us a little bit about the controls you can add to a 3D Sculptor design to address that issue?
Yeah, sure. I think easier than telling you, it would be simpler to just show you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So let's take a look at what we're working on here. Creating a new handle for this this miter saw. Miter saw was obviously designed entirely in SolidWorks, which is why you see that little red SolidWorks icon there. But we can use X-shape to design whatever we want. And like you mentioned, Matt, it's a super free-form modeling environment. You know, just pushing and pulling on geometry. And sometimes that scares some of our customers. Like, it's too free-form. How am I going to, you know, properly align everything? But there's a lot of ways to just be aware of everything that you're doing while you're modeling. And of course, you know, we can translate, scale, rotate, but we also always show a protractor or a little ruler as you're moving things, so you could snap precisely to geometry. If I wanted to move this in a particular direction, you know, sometimes the little tick marks right here are, you know, they're just not at the level of detail or the increments that you need. But I'll show you a little pro tip. You could click on the 0 and then just key in a value if I wanted to just move it 0.1 or something like that. So you could do that with faces, with edges, with whatever the geometry is that you're selecting.
Can you change the orientation of that direction at all?
Yeah, so another pro tip there is, as I'm selecting it, you know, just single click on the arrowhead and it pops up the ruler. And if the arrowhead is pointing that direction, you're going to type in a positive number. And if you wanted to move in the opposite direction of the arrowhead, you could just type in a negative number. So I could do negative 0.1 right there to go in the other direction. Yeah. So the other thing that we can do, let me go ahead and hide this SolidWorks geometry right here. And I've converted a sketch, an edge, from that geometry because I want to blend this subdivisional geometry to it. Of course, we could just use it as a visual reference and try to move everything just perfectly aligned to it. But the other thing that we could do is we can actually snap to that geometry precisely. So what I'm going to do here is just add some more faces so that I can leave everything in the handle where it was and then extrude out some additional faces. I'm going to crease the edges because by default everything's a C2 level of curvature continuity inside of X-shape, which is great for any level of product design. And then I could start moving this around if I wanted to, or in this case, what I'll do is I'm just scaling this around a little bit to be a little more circular because that's what I'm going to blend this shape into. And we're going to select each one of these edges and then simply select this edge from the miter saw handle.
And that's from the SolidWorks design.
That's from the SolidWorks design. We get a pop-up. The best part about SolidWorks user interfaces is always thinking ahead for us, recommending what the next step might be based on what we've selected. So because I've selected 2 different types of geometry, my option is to align to curve. And all it does there is just bring all that geometry over, and you could see it's you know, it's perfectly aligned to that. So
that's awesome.
It's a pretty cool feature. It makes it so much easier to design in context, and you can continue to show the rest of the geometry to see how it fits. And maybe if you have like a little bit of interference over there on that other side, designing with subdivisional modeling is a lot like designing with splines. You know, so anyone that's ever done any surface modeling before knows that less is more initially. You don't want too many points on a spline, otherwise it's too much to control. But here, what I could do is I can add loops of detail to this design at any point throughout the process, and then that gives me more control in that specific area. So I can shrink that down, shift it over, and sure enough, just like that, I've got a really nice blend from the handle that I've designed to the surrounding SOLIDWORKS geometry, and I know it's going to fit just right.
That is awesome. Now, can you go beyond, that's a little bit of subdivisional modeling, so you can take that type of technology that isn't available in SOLIDWORKS, enhance your SOLIDWORKS experience. You can have certain levels of control, but when it comes to industrial design, you're not going to be defining every single point on that. Now, can you go beyond that when it comes to expanding industrial design type applications and apply other tools in 3D experience?
Oh, for sure, absolutely. There's so many design tools at our fingertips, and SOLIDWORKS users will really appreciate some of the functionality, that's available on the platform. One of my other favorite apps is Generative Design. It's from the role 3D Pattern Shape Creator. And so many of our customers, just take a look at the sole of your shoe and look at all the patterns and the details that are on it. Modeling in SOLIDWORKS would be a nightmare. Yeah. Patterning around all those contoured shapes and so forth. We could do maybe a little bit of it, but there's definitely a ceiling to how complex of a pattern we can create. And as you saw, just with a couple clicks of a button, right now I'm in Generative Design, and I could start using all kinds of tools to create a pattern that looks something like this. The amount of detail in here, if we take a close look, is just amazing. It's wrapping around that complex contour of the handle, for one. Yeah. But also you see how the depth of that diamond shape indentation is flattening and smoothing out to the rest of the surrounding surfaces as it extends out right to left. So something like this is calculated in a few seconds inside of 3D Pattern Shape Creator, and you can tweak all those parameters as you need to get exactly what you're looking for.
I can't even imagine setting that up in a parametric environment.
Yeah, it would be hard. Yeah, and the rebuild time, whatever that would be, who knows.
So with the 3D Experience platform, you have additional tools like 3D Sculptor that can provide enhancement to what tools you already have. You can provide a little bit of control beyond what typically people think of with subdivisional modeling, with alignment to SOLIDWORKS geometry that already exists. But beyond that, you can really get organic geometry by just free-form push and pull type modeling with subdivisional modeling. Then you can go even further when it comes to generative design with tools on the 3D Experience platform. And as we've mentioned before, and we'll mention again, there's a lot more capabilities there that we haven't mentioned here, and you can really take care of your front-to-end workflow with all the tools on the 3D Experience platform.